Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first podcast of the Property Inspectors. My name is Dillon. This is Steve.
The Property Inspectors expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, reliance on, or inability to use this podcast or the information presented in this podcast.
The topic we're going to be talking about today is new home construction. We're going to be touching on home inspection with new home construction, city inspections with new home construction, new home warranty, and much, much more.
That's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, that is.
I'm Stephen Latender. I'm one of the owners of Admirable Inspection Services and Admirable Developments here in Edmonton, Alberta. I've been in the building inspection industry for about 6 years. I really enjoy it. I used to be a home inspector. Nowadays, I focus more concisely on new home warranty investigations, building failures, taking a small role with an engineering company as a contractor, and focus as well on commercial building inspections. So, yes, I was a home inspector. I've disappeared from the home inspection world. You are the home inspector now. So that's a little bit about me. And here's some about Dillon.
I'm the owner, operator of Better Safe Home Inspections, a local inspection company in Edmonton. Also own and operate DMAC Construction and Contracting, where we help some investors and builders around the city doing residential construction.
Nice.
Just a background mostly in renovation and framing. And then, the last 4 years I've been inspecting homes.
Awesome.
I think let's just cut right to the chase. Would you buy a new home?
Would I buy a new home? Well, that's certainly a loaded question. And I'd need a synopsis to even get into that. So okay. Are we saying this house is done, it's a production built home, this house is done, it's a custom home, I'm going to be involved, I'm not going to be
overall, would you ever buy
Well, then I have to say no. Because I don't have a situation to roll from.
What if you built it?
Well, if you built it, it's your own problem. It's your own beast, right? So, I mean, sure, right? Yeah. Because now I could come in there and decide that I'm going to overbuild this house. It's going to be too expensive and not competitive to resell because I've gone too far with it. But I think we need to focus on the reality of, okay, would I buy a new home? Sure, everybody's going to buy a new home. Yeah. What do I now need to be careful about that new home? So, I mean, really, how many new homes do you see a month? Take the work we do together out for builders and look at just your home inspection side. How many new homes do you think you see a month?
10 to 15.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, for myself...
And that's not including anything I do with you.
No, and that we can do 500 brand new homes for a home builder in a year, right? Yeah. So that's a lot of stuff. So you see a lot of new homes. Anyone that wants to sit here and tell us that a construction site manager's job is an easy job. You want to build a house, it's an easy job. You have no clue. You're lost. No. Yeah. Right? There is a lot that goes into it. Yeah. And a recent conversation I'm having with a fellow that's going to be building a house out in Jasper is every project is only as good as your working conditions and your drawings. Yeah. People might get offended by that. Designers get offended by that because you pull out 16 code violations within a single drawing package, and they don't want to hear it because you're just the dumb inspector. So, yes, I'd build a new home, but what is it for the average Joe buying a house for their family, upgrading their home? I mean, I do the warranty side of things, and that's all I do, or in the failures. So my view of a home is very different. I guess at the end of the day, yes, I would, but I'd be so cautious when I built it or who I bought that home from.
Could you imagine buying a home without new home warranty? Could you imagine? I could not. I could not imagine.
I couldn't, but new home warranty in Alberta is very limited. Right, so
I know.
You and I, we always talk about this term contractual.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, so there's the contractual term first and foremost. So we should probably touch on that at some point in time.
No, we definitely should. Yeah.
But so here's a perfect case. I've worked for one gentleman and his wife since 2017, 2018-ish. They bought a home from a renovation company turned home builder. So this was their first spec home. They went through a roller coaster with them. All in, I think they are personally out $900,000. Wow. So, I mean, this is a significant value. Obviously, a significant home. But the maximum of a new home warranty in Alberta is $265,000. So when you just dropped $900,000, that's the limit. That's the limit. There's no dollars after that.
Whoa.
When the policy is out of dollars, it's out of dollars. Now, here's another scenario to that. And one thing I have said to people,
Did you say that's the maximum?
Maximum, it's done. Warranty's done.
You build a $10 million house.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have a $10 million house, should you need warranty?
Probably.
Okay.
You probably need it more than
let me rephrase.
Anyone else.
Yeah, you need warranty, but you also need to realize that I own a $10 million home.
That
I
wouldn't
should
be
have
the-
20% in my back
That'd
pocket.
be the
to fix it.
garage, right?
The
For
garage,
$10 million.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Or not even the garage.
Yeah.
But there's limitations. So yes, the warranty's there, but it's also ran by mostly insurance companies. There's just one non-for-profit, and that's it. But even the non-for-profit, I've seen it on both ends because I've seen the litigation side, I've seen the arbitration side, I've seen the mediation side, I've seen the battles take place on the work sites. And at the end of the day, I mean, an insurance company will spend $15,000, $20,000 to refute a $25,000 problem, and right, and to work around a claim. So, will I ever fully understand insurance? No. Will I understand how someone at a desk that has no training should even be in that position? No. But on the other hand, if you remember recently, I went to Building Science Day from the Public Home Builders Institute.
Yeah.
It was a very great course for day long.
Yeah.
That room was filled with myself as an inspector, one other inspector I know that's very talented at what he does, and a room full of home builders and warranty coordinators. So there was some reality that people from the warranty companies were actually going to these courses. They're getting educated, so they are not just looking at something.
Yeah.
That veers us off into a totally different realm of,
Yeah.
hey, if you're building a new house, you better be prepared under certain circumstances to buck up, open your wallet, fix a problem, stop wasting your time with the insurance policy, and dealing with it after the fact.
Yeah.
But not everybody has that money laying in the back pocket.
And so if you were buying a new home, what type of exterior would you go with? Would you go with, you're a big East guy, I know that, but would you go with East?
I guess that greatly depends on what you're building. I mean, at the end of the day,
Say just, new build.
well, if you're building
2,500 square
a new home in a production neighborhood,
Yeah.
no, you're not putting a $70,000 cladding when all the neighboring homes are 20.
No, I understand
Right.
that, but like, would you go with that? Would you go with that cladding?
If you know what, we've
If
even
you were,
looked at
like,
our
say,
own
any neighborhood.
any neighborhood that was irrelevant. Yes,
Or
absolutely.
say you're at an estate.
Sure, and yes, I absolutely would. I would push my insulation to the outside.
See, it
but
scares the shit out of me.
it doesn't scare me at all. But there's a greater conversation with that. How many fenestrations do I have in that wall?
Yeah.
If I have 2-inch insulation with 6 windows, am I even gaining anything? Do I need to go up to 6-inch insulation to now meet the model code? What is the case?
Yeah.
But now you're talking about somebody being grossly involved in the home build, creating very, very crazy specifications to achieve certain things. And that's not happening in most home building.
Yeah.
Very few people can afford the extra cost that goes into a house and say, yeah, sure, I'll spend 35% more on my house to get a better house. That conversation doesn't happen.
Yeah. It's more cosmetically appealing for sure. Me, I'd go with vinyl siding. I'm old fashioned.
But it's
I
also-
know I can rip that apart
Yeah.
and do whatever repairs I need to with hand tools.
And
Right?
that's fair.
That's just, I don't know, that's just the way I grew up. I like simple.
Yeah. And there's a lot more building science to that simple than just, hey, this is a cost-effective cladding.
Yeah.
It's probably the best drying cladding for moisture control issues because of drainage, because of not a real airspace, but there is some airspace in behind. And when properly detailed, can perform very, very good.
Yeah, and like say if you did have an envelope failure, like you can dismantle that, put it aside, and literally put it all back together.
Okay, so here's a good example. So you remember the recent big house with the double islands and the triple garage? I did the quality control, you did the delivery. Okay? So we're just talking about that house. So obviously we can't always share whose house and what the deal is, but brand new house, I did a compliance quality control on it, Dillon delivered the home, and at the end of the day, we look at that house right there. Okay, so I'm doing a quality control a week before you're going to deliver the house to these people.
Yeah.
We are very lucky that we work for an extremely reputable production builder that cares about what they deliver.
Yes.
They do not care what we find. What they do care about is the fact that we identify it and they can get these things fixed before, during, after possession to mitigate a warranty claim. So story is, you'll always hear it from me if I walk up to a vinyl-sided home or any home for that matter and the brown ooze and the ice is coming out of the walls, well, I'm pulling a resin from something. The wood's, like the staining is happening from wood. This is not just some frost in the attic, which is okay. Don't panic when you get frost in your attic. Every home inspector goes wild. It's normal. It's normal. Home inspectors, watch out for them. But these are clear signs. So in that house, shortly after I departed from it, and I don't know if it happened before you or after you, I don't recall the total situation, But they stripped the entire north elevation off that entire house, right?
Yeah.
Vinyl siding, completely salvageable. Nothing got damaged.
Yeah.
You throw a couple of pieces out. Who cares?
Yes.
And what did they find? When the previous siding guy was there, he had an improper building sequence slap with the house wrap just below the eaves.
Yes.
House didn't have trough on it yet. So when water came back in, surface tension got it, starts coming down the walls, hit the discontinuity, saturated all the house, and away you go. Now, it didn't have eaves troughs, so we know where the problem stemmed from, right? But it still doesn't matter. Water should have been able
Yes.
to ingress
Yes.
that wall, float out the bottom,
Yeah.
and been an okay day.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Vinyl siding for the 90% out there, it's a very cost effective, it's an efficient, and it's a good drying cladding. But spin it back to you, okay?
Yeah.
So pick 5 things, 4 things, 2 things, who cares? What are the most common things you see in a brand new home that you're reporting every single time? I'm not talking about the incomplete stuff that the builder takes full advantage of you as a home inspector because, oh, this goofball is going to come into my site, he's going to write a punch list and I'll know all the stuff that's
Yeah.
incomplete.
Yeah.
But then I can puff my chest up because I already know it wasn't incomplete.
Yeah.
And you know, and I know that there's these site guys that are awesome to deal with. They're
Yeah.
super receptive. They
Yeah.
care. They want to have dialogue so their customer can have a good experience.
Yeah.
And then there's the other dudes that are offended the second you step through the door.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So what is it? What are you constantly seeing?
Like the ones that matter, definitely flashing detail.
Hang on a second here. Let's circle back to that. What do you mean the ones that
The ones that are more like, rather than just like a cosmetic deficiency, something inside a home, more of the incompletes, right? Something like, okay, so missing flashing,
Okay.
right?
So you should probably tell people what flashing is so they even get an idea of that.
Yeah, flashing is just any wall penetration in your in between your cladding or different material transition below windows, above doors. It just helps move water above or around your material, right? And you could probably even explain it a little bit
So
better.
I'll nerd out a little bit on that
Yeah.
one, and I'll say the intent of flashing is to break the surface tension of water
There you go.
between cladding
That's
elements
better.
at different interfaces. So
Mr.
just like
Code.
Dillon said, we got a door, we have the head of that door, we're going to put a flashing on it with an appropriate overhang and a drip
Yeah.
so we can break that surface tension, not pull water back into a
Yeah.
structure, right?
So I'd say that'd be one, and then like just sealing around your penetration, so like your windows and your doors, right? You never see that.
Okay,
I
so
don't think
but
have you ever seen that?
on some infills.
You
I have
have
never seen it in production.
with like Hardy.
No, I've seen it with vinyl, legit.
The only time I've ever seen it was with Hardy.
Well, and with now remember with Hardy or a cement board type
And it
product
looks,
like that,
it just makes it look.
it looks
finish
good.
yeah.
It
So I think that's the
performs
only
good.
reason they did it. Yeah.
But Hardy is ultra dependent on sealant joints for the wall cladding to perform. 'Cause it's not vinyl. It's really tight against the wall. Drainage is a little bit. Your face seal is much more important.
Yeah.
But spin back to that. You're saying flashing sealants. Well, this has been in building code for a very long time.
Yes.
So why are we still having the conversation?
I don't know. And like just workmanship. And like sometimes I think it's cosmetics because like sometimes flashing doesn't look right there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And like in between different material transitions, it's just kind of ugly. So it's like, and like how much, and like I'm not saying everywhere's, but like in certain areas, it's like how much is that flashing doing? Is that flashing? And I know it's code, and I know you have to do it because it's code, but maybe that's why, right? Cosmetics. And
Okay, hold
as
on a
far
second.
as far as
Cosmetics,
no, but
come
no, and as far as sealing, I have no idea, and I don't. They still don't do it, and they never, like, no one does it.
Okay, so we know pre 2006 vinyl siding failures were starting to become a greater issue. Buildings that were starting to change, they were starting to get a little bit tighter, starting to get pressurized with heating systems. So the risks now became greater. Drainage was a bigger factor. Code changes in 2006 get implemented in 2007. We're having a conversation 15 years later, and we still can't get compliance.
Yeah.
Why? It's not within the scope of municipal inspectors. The exterior of an envelope doesn't
True.
count.
Yes, yes.
So, yet you and you'll go to a home inspection. You do warranty inspections as well. You'll have 20, 30. I had a recent house, like very recent, the one I sent you the whole thermal tune thing
Yeah.
from. If I was to write them out as individual, which I don't do, I could probably turn all those code violations into about 85 code violations on the outside of that house and create a gigantic warranty document. I try to be a little bit more respectful to everybody involved in the sense that, if you're missing particular details with flashings,
Yeah.
I'll call it out as an encompassing statement on the house, right? So, okay, so flashings, sealants.
The other one that I see a lot is just ground level and cladding, and I see that like all the time.
Right.
I know you see that a lot too.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really, I think that's a big one, honestly, because I've even seen in older houses tearing apart, like just the moisture damage around that rim. You know what I mean? Just having that moisture wick up your wall, right? When it's just sitting there. I'd say that's definitely a hard number 2 for ones that it's like, you know, that's what I consider, you know, you definitely want to address personally. Will that settle? I'm sure it does, but will it for sure? Like, I'm not, I can't say for sure. But that would be definitely a hard number
you're
2.
on to 3, your first 3 items you've just mentioned now to talk about a new home are all moisture related.
Yes.
So we don't have flashings to break surface tension of water. So we're pulling water back into our wall assembly. We don't have sealant joints at the penetrations where it's our most critical detail anyway. Well, maybe not our most critical detail, but our most critical location. And then we've got a clearance from grade.
Yeah.
So three moisture issues right off the get-go.
Yeah, and those are the ones that like I consider more serious. And probably building envelope is my biggest fear as a home inspector. I think that's more than structure, anything, because it is structure at the end of the day. It can be structure, right? Your exterior wall.
Yeah, and well, eventually when the moisture does enough damage, for sure,
right?
it becomes a structural issue.
If your building envelope fails, and especially when you get into a system like eaves or like something that just holds that, it can hold that in there. It can be definitely scary.
Disaster. You know, it's funny you say that. So in my very, very young times, working as an inspector, I had a lady reach out to me. She was referred over from some other friends, and she had built this big walkout house. And she did an acrylic stucco system. So we won't get into what these different claddings are, but acrylic stucco, sand and cement, stucco just like Grandma and Grandpa's house had, but then we're going to go put an acrylic coating on there, right? So that acrylic coating could have an elastomeric into it for pliability and movement. It could be much more harder and rigid. But at the end of the day, she had one. She changed the spec from true sand and cement during the construction stage because she wanted that smooth finish. So stucco guys be like, okay, no problem. We'll stop right here. So they finished the scratch coat. And they started putting acrylic right on top of it. And she initially that's why she called it for mold in the first place. She's like, there's something wrong. My house stinks. So this one was so bad when I went into it, I actually sent James. You've met James, I think, and before, and he's an environmental hygienist and too smart and can talk to somebody at a physician level. So he goes in, does this air quality assessment because we knew this one was going to go sideways. And it's like Hurricane Katrina type numbers, like the one you sent me very recently. Same thing, hundreds of thousands of mold spores. Like you need to barricade off this basement, and it's all because of the fact that the stucco guys, when they stopped, they just threw an acrylic coating on top of about 3/8 thick stucco. So when it got moisture in it, because it was just a crap job from the get-go, it started to saturate the house and saturate the house and saturate the house. Now, in the end, I had some special equipment coming in for her. She backdoored, went to somebody else. We broke the relationship off. I kind of said, you know, piss on you. I just spent thousands of dollars getting specific equipment to test your home. You found somebody that you just chose to destroy your house and cut it apart. So I get that she had to do it. They ended up replacing a third of her home.
Wow.
A third. So like
it's
that included
huge.
interior finishings.
That's
a
huge.
crazy kitchen.
Well, do you know what the bill was?
No, I never spoke to her again. Her lawyer did contact me to say, you know, do you want to be a part of this litigation process? And I had said, you know what, your customer kind of just left me out with a bill in the last time here. And I brought in a bunch of, so we were bringing in pins and things to do wall cavity probe to the outside. So I mean, stuff that we were looking at the other day. But at the end of the day, there's a perfect example of flashing moisture clearance from grade. It's just a different cladding type. Things weren't working, right? So it's every structure is super crazy. What are you finding in on the home inspection side of things right now? What are you finding in terms of when we talk about the new homes? How big are these incomplete lists at time of home inspection? Because I mean, my stubbornness, and you know that I'm stubborn. So when I was inspecting, if I came to a home and I was walking in, this house is like 60%, I would pack up and walk away. So
I do
you know
the
what?
same.
This is bullshit. I should have no reason to be here.
And like, I feel that certain builders will do that, right? And they basically just use you as a quality control.
Oh, it's not even quality control. It's like, I don't have a clue. Maybe you can tell me what I should do.
100%. And like, not only that, but they leave it so far incomplete that you can't even see the completed product. So you can't truly report on the home as a whole.
No, that's
right?
super
So
true.
you know what I mean. If the floor covering's not in, you definitely won't comment on the ceiling around your tub.
And you know they're moving in next week too.
Yes, or like in 12 hours. Like it can be definitely scary, but
So do you find it's still a lot of punch list writing essentially then?
now it seems to be a little bit better, but definitely in this.
Like because we're in our winter slow.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
So
fair.
it seems to be all right now. Yeah.
But so you can't beat up on every builder either. And I mean, that's not what this conversation's about. I mean,
No.
again, circling back.
No, there's lots of good builders.
There's
Lots of builders. And like as a home inspector, it is very easy to come and make a list of something that's done wrong. You even if you make a list of 50 things that are incomplete, they've done like 100,000 right. You know what I mean? Like,
And it's hard to find that balance.
Yes.
Like,
And we're only looking at a completed product, right? There's so much that goes on behind that, right?
when you get to see it.
So, you definitely, it's definitely not an easy task to be a builder. Right?
No, it's not.
And at the end of the day, for the most part, I just try to help them. If anything, you know what I mean? It's just a second set of eyes.
Yeah.
And they can take it however they want. A lot of times they probably don't think that I'm trying to help them, right? But, and just make sure, obviously, your
6'2" guy standing over a 5'4" builder. Yeah, he probably doesn't want your help. He's probably freaked out and intimidated. Yeah. No, and again, you know what, for myself, I dove very hard into home inspection. I mean, essentially, I was unemployed. I was trying to find my path in life, and my wife and I decided that home inspection was it.
You were really good at it.
I'm sorry?
You were really good at it.
I worked my ass off, and I mean, I dedicated my life to it. I mean, we did so good our first year. I mean, our second and third year were awesome. We had employee inspectors, and my degree of interference, my degree of control was probably too much to have really good, comfortable employees. I mean, what we do together is a little different. I've got some quirks. There's certainly no question of that.
Sure. Yeah.
But we don't necessarily, unless we're on our big pressure testing we did on that apartment building there recently.
Yeah.
We're not on the same site every day. We're not beating each other up.
Yeah.
But, I did all that. I stood my ground. I stood firm when I was getting beaten up by a home builder and I didn't know what to say. I'd go find out. I'd ask the questions and then I started to earn their respect. And now my primary customer base is home builders.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, and that's awesome. It's very rewarding.
You think you deal with more home builders than commercial?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would definitely say, where's Jen to count the beans and tell us
I don't
exactly
know. You're
what's supposed
definitely doing
to
a lot
be.
of commercial these days, it seems, but
Commercial has been busy. We've got some meetings coming up here for the future of this year as well. I mean, obviously, thermography is a big thing for us as well, and it's nice to be out there, and doing these different things because they are more profitable. They're less time consuming. Your work's a little bit more appreciated. The emotional attachment that a family's going through during their home buying process, and we think about everybody over the last couple of years with COVID, and like you picked your floors out 7 times, and every time you couldn't get them. So by the time you're done, you don't have the floor you want, you don't have the light fixture you want, you got a temporary overhead door. You get it. And I mean, these are the pains that these guys in the front lines are dealing with homeowners trying to turn over homes. We have nobody that wants to work in Alberta for some reason anymore. And I don't know, maybe everybody got too much free money and they just decided, hey, this is good.
Yeah.
But I mean, the guys that are coming to site, I got to watch what I say, but there seems to be this communication barrier where, I'm coming into site in the summertime, homes are getting cladded, vinyl siding, production homes. And you're trying to just get this guy to pause. I'm like, hey, I'm Steve. I work for so-and-so. I'm here doing quality control. Yeah. I've noticed you've got some improper sequencing at the battens. I've got some issues with the flashings. Yeah. Can we talk about it for a minute? And these guys go ballistic.
Yeah.
They pack up, they leave site, and they never come back.
Oh, really?
Now you're calling the home builder and his site supervisor saying, I tried to talk to this guy in a red Caravan that looked like he was homeless. He was legitimately your siding guy. Yeah. I just tried to bring a couple of things up to him. He went berserk. He ran away from site. Yeah. So I find out for that particular one, 4 days later, they still couldn't find a siding guy because everybody knew I was working in the area and they didn't want to come back. Yeah. So our job is not to go in there and destroy, but the job at the end of the day is to help, right? Yeah. So, and that's a moisture issue. We start getting issues, and that home's going to have warranty claims. We're working for a builder that doesn't want warranty claims. Let's catch it in the butt, and people don't want to hear it. So what did you have? What else did you have in your list there? So we touched on warranty a bit. I mean, there's huge limitations there.
What's your take on? And I know you work with builders a lot more than me, but and this might help some people. production scale builders versus smaller scale builders, and what to kind of look out for on both sides. Because like me personally, production seems to be very similar. Like the odd time, maybe you do catch like an envelope, something wrong with the envelope, something like that.
Yeah.
But I've dealt with some smaller builders in the city where it's basically like this house should not be habitable. Right. So and it's like not all of them, right? There's some very good smaller infill builders for sure. 100%. Like that probably do even like some of the best builds in the city, I personally believe. But there is also smaller builders, maybe first 1 or 2 homes, maybe they're doing some construction, got some money, and you really like serious material, major defects in the homes. So what's your take on that?
Well, and I guess let's define for the listeners here as well. What is a production builder? So in my view, and there's probably a definition somewhere, but a production builder, to me, is someone that builds 30 plus more homes in a given year, typically driven from 4 or 5 models that can give you 25 different floor plans and 16 different elevations. So, and they're going to build that home over and over and over again, probably going to have a generally good drawing package for 936 environmental details and climate. We're probably going to see some really good cladding details. I have one builder I work through, they have a 400-page drawing package that every trade has access to. So if you're working on an enclosed shower that's tile, like you have the slope, you have the bench details, you have everything. Then you meet other production builders that are building 125 homes a year, and they don't have a single drawing other than the 12 it takes to get a permit. So I'm like, well, where's your 936 details? Oh, well, we just recycle this document. Here, use this one. I'm like, yeah, but this isn't even compliant. Your frost wall's got a cold spot in it. Like, you can't use this. Like, what are you talking about? Because they don't know. Then you get, like you're saying, the small builders. So I'm going to say his name, Phil. So Phil, shout out to you. You know who you are. And I met Phil years ago in Park Allen. It was a gentleman bought a house in the area. He builds very cool custom homes. He's not into, production type building. This is a guy that brings passion to home building to a new level. Like to the point where, I'm outside, it's this light snowy day, I'm taking pictures of things, and, he's barking at, what the hell are you taking pictures of? And I'm like, everything.
That's the
right?
best.
Everything, right? So I'm egging him on now. I'm like, I'm not worried about this. So in the end of it, this inspection ends, I deliver a report. I believe he contacted me for a couple of questions about the inspection, and he's got a thick accent too. Like he comes across like he's just mad every time he talks sometimes, and especially if he is a little mad, like he's going to project his voice. And I was very intimidated by him, like very, very intimidated. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to get me. Like this isn't good. And now we have a very good working relationship. I've helped him with, asbestos testing on some projects, questions he's had. I was doing home inspections. He bought a home. He's like, go inspect this house. Oops, go inspect this house I'm going to buy. So we have a really good relationship now. And I helped him with a project he's working on even this summer. And, we put a stop to the job. We banged our heads together. We found a solution. We found a workaround in like 30 minutes. Project kept moving forward. But that's a guy that has no issue having a third party there. Your homeowner wants to let somebody come inspect, go for it. You find some things wrong while I'm working on it, let's talk about it. Let's make it better. Oh, Mr. Homeowner, your inspector brought up this curb detail on your roof. Well, we can change it, but it's probably going to cost you $10,000, and he's got a valid point. Do you want to spend the money? Home inspector brought up that we're not zoning your basement in this 3,000 square foot house. The basement might not be that comfortable. What would you like to do? Would you like to upgrade the heating system for another $7,000? He's got a valid point. But things come at a cost, and you have to define whose cost it is and who controls it too, right? So on the other hand, you've seen it, I've seen it. You're talking about these homes that, have been built, should be knocked down. Nobody should live in them because there's a doctor financing a home build for his buddy that's helping out a friend. And they have occupancy, but the electrical's not done. There's no smoke detectors. And you're wondering, like, how do we have occupancy? Did he take this panel cover off a different house? Wait a second, what's the address? And there's a lot of craziness out there, too.
And that's, like, really the only time I've actually been, like, truly concerned about some of my clients was with new builds with smaller builders. Like, a lot of times when you're dealing with older homes, like, you can explain to them what they're getting into. You know what I mean? Like, there could be moisture here. Like the potentials, the asbestos, like all the issues that could potentially, you can explain that to them. When you're dealing with a new build, and like a lot of times finances are the thing, and like your client's potentially buying a home that's like 75% done and has 25% incompletes, and like they've been waiting for it for like the last 5 months.
They're living in a hotel.
Yeah, well, it's like, and then like, you know, how come this stuff isn't done, right?
Yeah.
It's those situations that really, as a home inspector, I'm, you know, you as a home inspector, you deliver a property condition report, and basically that's it. But a lot of times you just want to be like, I don't know about this situation, man.
Okay,
like
so
you should run away.
That is
like,
such a valid point. I'm going to ask you a hard question here in a second.
Yeah.
So, a great deal of my motivation from exiting home inspection was over the last couple of years, we noticed this emotional involvement from home buyers that it had changed quite a bit. Like what I'm trying to say, and I'm so sorry. Excuse me. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, I noticed an emotional involvement and an emotional attachment with home purchasing and maybe even a little bit of an entitlement growth in people where I think we all got locked up for so long. We forgot how to be really human with everybody.
Yep.
And just dealing with people on the front line became very hard.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I'm working for home builders. I'm working for home buyers. I'm dealing with warranty. I'm dealing with insurance. I'm dealing with litigation. I'm dealing with all these things. Now, when I go do a home inspection, and I have a pretty good handle on building code, well, do I talk about that in my home inspection? Do I talk about that in the home inspection? Do I talk about that? Well, they're all code violations. Does it matter? Do I communicate it? I know it. So now if I end up litigating with this customer and somebody asks me the question, well, do you realize that this is a building code violation and you're in a court of law? And you say, well, yeah, I do. Well, why wasn't it in your report? It became very hard. And it became hard in the sense that, just like you're saying, you see these little things and you have these uncertainties on what the fallout might be. Yes. I'm like, I don't know if I want the liability of inspecting new homes anymore. Yeah. Maybe I'll just do the technical side of things. So I understand your point of what you're saying, where, you know, you're scared because of the unknowns. So where do you draw the line on all the building code violation that you know you're looking at? Because you do know home compliance. Yeah. You very much understand what code is and isn't.
Inform. Like I let them know. I let them know as much as I can. But I don't, you know, I can't say run. I don't.
No, that's not
Maybe
your job.
I should.
No, that's not your job. Unless it's...
But I let them know as much as I possibly can. I don't hold back. Right? Ever.
You shouldn't.
And I don't. And I can't. I never did. I don't think I ever will. Maybe there's certain things I miss. I don't know everything, right? Yeah. But if I know it, I will definitely let you know, right? And
but again, how do you define?
But I don't say run. And sometimes I feel like saying run.
And you know what? I have met, like, on a reselled home, like where, you know, like my first home inspection was for this very nice young lady buying a home, inner city, super cheap house. Like, you know, I opened the one cabinet and there was like, I can't remember, there was like 27 connections for plumbing. Yeah. Because stuff was just going everywhere. Like, it was awful. Bands. I'm sorry?
Where was this?
It was like a cabinet behind the shower. It's like, and literally, like, I'll find this file for you one day. I'll never forget it because it was probably file number 1. Yeah. And I flat out told her, I said, you know what? This isn't my job to do it. I said, but if you don't have 60, 70 grand sitting in your back pocket right now, just walk away and call it a day.
Yes.
We never heard from her again. So she probably bought the house. Yeah. But the house was a death. It literally had in the basement was so shallow that they added a room. Yeah. But the door, because of the beam, you couldn't get under it. So they dug out a hole in the floor. Yeah. So you could step into a hole in the floor to walk under the beam and come back out of the hole into the bedroom. It was awesome.
That's wild.
It was awesome.
That is wild.
Yeah. So that stuff is there. But how are you finding it as Mr. Home Inspector, dealing with the new home world, knowing what you know, working with me, doing performance testing,
getting
it just helped code
me
education?
A bunch, right? No, it definitely helped me.
Well, it's helped you, but has your new home list grown from here to here because of the things you're discovering?
It keeps growing.
It keeps growing.
And it's going to keep growing because I'm going to keep getting smarter. Right. You're always going to learn more. You always should learn more, especially if you're a home inspector, right? Sure. Like, that's basically what we're getting paid. We're getting paid for knowledge. Yeah. So the more knowledge you have, the bigger asset you are, right? So that's the way I look at it. So yeah, my lists are growing and they're going to continue growing, right? Right. And like, as building changes, there's more stuff to grow on as well, right? And obviously it just depends on what you're inspecting. But I've really had to separate old from new. Yeah. Right. So I have 2 separate templates now. Right. So, and because that's where I was having issues, right? Because I talked to a builder, because if you're buying a new house, the report's for the builder. It's not for the owner, the way I look at it, right? They're going to take this report, they're going to give it to the builder, right? And the builder's going to read it, right? So when you're getting a new inspection for me now, you are It's just code. Like
It's just code.
well, that's all it is. It's either new home performance guidelines or it's Alberta Building Code, Canadian Electric Code, or National Plumbing Code.
Right.
And it'll just basically state the deficiency, where you can locate it, in what book, right? What section, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. And then if I was to give that to a seller, right?
Yeah, they would-
like,
what
yeah,
the
no,
hell?
it's not justifiable. So I've really been just trying to break down what the deficiency is in the older home and maybe the best scope to go. If I feel comfortable explaining
Yeah.
the next steps, I'll put those in, or at least follow up with the right trade to do so.
Right.
Right. So I really had to separate that because I was having a hard time doing so much new home construction and then bouncing back to older homes.
Yeah.
Because it's a completely different scope.
I hate old homes.
Yeah.
I literally do. I'm sorry. Everybody's in an old home. I know they have character. I know they're beautiful. I know they're your homes, but I hate old homes. I hate old homes because every time you open something, there's another problem. Every time you do this, there's another problem. It's
What's the date? Like, have you ever inspected a house that's built prior to 1950 that you wouldn't knock over?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
have?
very fortunate for myself. So not far from here, we have 123rd, 124th ish area over here where a lot of historical homes are there.
Yeah.
And I've had the pleasure of inspecting some historical homes, and I wish I could remember these ladies' names. I don't know if they were a business or not, but it was a mother and daughter. It's not a well-known company. I think they were just kind of their own thing. And
Was it like 1920s?
No, they would have been like 1905, 1914, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And like these gals, like they have got talent.
Yeah.
Like we're talking like double hung windows that have been completely dismantled, new glass, new glazing, copper polished sliders, like the most beautiful weight setups. Like you walk up to these things and they're like butter in this old house on brand new foundation. So I have had the pleasure of it. Like,
It's a brand new foundation?
yeah, brand new foundation on a 100-year-old home.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, that has to happen. Let's face it; they're not deep enough to do anything with, right?
Yeah, no.
But I mean, I have had that pleasure of inspecting some very awesome character homes, and some of that were in complete shit shape too.
Yeah.
That when you just look at the wood and these doors and these formal dining rooms, and I don't know. I mean, granted, you're not going to do it, but you see yourself sitting in the corner smoking a stogie by the fire with a nice little cognac or something. Whatever. Like those, like you just paint these pictures in these homes, which they are gorgeous, they're adorable. But there's also companies in town that build those homes new. Right?
Yeah.
No, they're not going to have the copper and the windows and all this historical variances of code, but there's people that can still build you that new today too.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I've seen some very wonky old homes. I've seen some very cool old homes, but old homes aren't for me.
No. And I don't know. I disagree and agree.
Yeah.
I think they build them better now than they ever have. Personally, like I think we obviously have the technology and the engineering that you can build basically whatever you want in 2023.
Yes, I agree. You can build
You know what I
whatever you
mean?
want.
If you want to build a house that was built in 1970, 1960, you definitely could do that. The exact same house, right? You might have to skip the asbestos, but you could definitely make something very close. I think we're getting a little off topic. I think old home is definitely a whole separate topic that we can definitely get into at a later date.
Hours.
One thing I do want to talk about, though, is maybe just get a little bit more on the topic of home warranty and your thoughts on that. And just as far as maybe like home inspection around home warranty, getting a home inspection and like certain areas where you want to be careful. Right.
Okay. So how much time we got? We'll talk for another 20 minutes here?
Yeah.
Because this is a whole
I know
new
this
beast
is,
in
and
itself.
I know. And I know we could talk about this for 3 days, but
yeah.
like maybe let's just touch maybe like right around the home inspection. And I know there's different, like depending on the situation, right? But let's say there's a contract in place. There's a build contract in place, right? Let's talk about that situation.
Okay, so bottom line, I'm a home buyer.
Yep.
I decide I'm going to build a house on the golf course.
Yep.
I see a house that's already going to be, I have a sign on the street and I see this vision of this house. I love it. I'm going to be able to jump in on it. I'm going to be able to make all the changes to the drawing package before I start on the home. The location's ideal. Here I go. Let's build this house. Let's call it customer normal. It is what it is.
Yep.
So what do I do as a homeowner now? Do I sit on my hands and wait till my builder calls me and says, hey, your house is going to be delivered in a month, so get your mortgage, get everything in order. Hey, get your lawyers lined up because, you're going to have to get your finances sorted out if you're mortgaging or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
But your delivery date's coming. So there's a contractual timeline. It's about 31 days. Everybody starts to have them get their notice.
Yeah.
So have you waited too long? Or are you just going to do you're going to do an inspection? What are you going to do? So now it becomes that term contractual.
Yeah,
so
that was basically the word I wanted to
term that
bring
everybody
up.
has. Yeah. What is contractual? So in a nutshell, in 90% of the cases, and there's some really loose verbiage in the warranty guideline that says may. So remember, when we say may, it's kind of like, no, it's not going to happen. But contractual. So Dillon gets hired by Joe Blow to come in, inspect this home at the foundation stage, the framing stage, the rough-in stage, the pre-drywall stage, the completion stage. You go visit this house 6-7 times.
Yeah.
Many people tried phase inspections as home inspectors where you go 3 times. Yeah. You do your best. You're not going to learn a lot about the house. You need to go every 2 days if you want to capture everything. Yeah. But now all of a sudden, the house is underway, and these issues start getting brought up. There's a violation of code here. We don't have a capillary break at the foundation transition to framing. Right? OSB is right on top of the ladder. We're going to wick moisture. This house is going to decay at the base of the wall. This is going to happen in time. This is a fact. Yeah. Right? It's too close to the grade, like you've already said. Yeah. It doesn't have proper drainage in the wall. Yeah. So we bring this forward to the builder. It now gets documented. They decide that they're not going to jack the house off the foundation to fix it. They're going to let it ride. And it's documented. So now all of a sudden, a year goes by, your house is finally done. You're signing your new home warranty. The house decays in 7 years where we knew it was going to decay. Yeah. And all of a sudden it starts coming out, this was communicated to the builder before you signed that new home warranty document. And new home warranty says...
Communicate to the buyer.
To the builder. So the build, right? So you identified this issue.
By the buyer.
Identified by the buyer. Yeah. And new home warranty hasn't been signed yet. It's been communicated. It's documented. Yeah. Now home warranty is going to say, although we may cover structural issues that have been communicated prior to signing your contract, we can't issue this claim at $280,000 because it's over your maximum coverage, and it was communicated to the builder before the commencement of your new home warranty. Yeah. So now we run the risk of everything that has been communicated to the builder during that time may never have the support of new home warranty. So again, may.
Yes.
So it's not going to. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
So what do? Your hands are tied. Who is going to enforce the change to the builder? So again, Mr. Builder, Dillon came over. He has explained to me this is a moisture issue. This is a problem. I need to get this dealt with. And you've really voiced your opinion on it. Yeah. Who's going to force the builder to do anything? Whose job is that? It's not yours. Yeah. Your job is to communicate what you found.
Yes.
And explain the risk. Now that buyer has to decide, now do I get my lawyer involved during the home building process to make sure my builder is going to be held accountable, because the city inspections are not going to capture that, or they didn't catch it and they're not going to force a change on it. Yeah. Builders can get variances of conditions, right? So there's things that can happen. So you deal with all that, and then all of a sudden now that's scenario number 1. So you've got this contractual scenario. So we've talked about that a lot. Yeah. Then we talk about what you do as an inspector, and you're going in typically right before home turnover. Yep. Right? People are about to buy that home, or whether there's a contract in place or not. You go in, you hammer out this list. There are realtors involved with the purchase process from the home builder directly. You've come out, I've seen your reports, and you have, what is it, that orangey yellow tab? Yeah. And it just scrolls for pages and pages and pages and pages of this yellow. And it's everything from chipped flooring to gouges in the walls to cracking from truss up. Like, it's just, some of it's frivolous shit. The other stuff really matters. So now all this stuff's been communicated, but then the realtor that's helping out may be that realtor where they understand contractual. They understand all these things. They've been through the rodeo themselves. Yeah. And they're like, unfortunately, sir, we have to come to you with 72 addendum items to satisfy my buyer. Yeah. Or you meet the realtor that says, you know what, let's just make sure we pick and choose what matters the most to you. Yeah. And we'll communicate that to the builder so we don't upset them. Yeah. Well, why are we worried about upsetting anybody? Right? This is information presented. It shouldn't be coached by somebody over what matters and what doesn't matter. Yeah. It should be up to you, the buyer, but it's your builder's job to be the professional. Take your buyer, take your home inspector's report, sit down at the table and start to have a discussion. Right? If your home inspector has got this stupid recommendation of, I think we should put downspout extensions over top of your roof from here to here so water doesn't flow here. Why are you smirking? You've probably written that in the report, haven't you? They burst, they blow up, they don't work in Canadian weather. Roofers will sell them. So yeah, if you're going to take them on and off, sure.
I'm not the only one.
Oh, I know. I've written it once or twice too.
There's some pretty big people.
But these things blow up. They don't work.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's my job, if I'm the builder, to sit down with that customer and say, you know what? Hey, Dillon's got a legitimate suggestion here that was relevant 20 years ago with 3-tab shingles and not so much in today's shingles because they don't really go through quite the wear because of lamination and better products. But yeah, if you want them, we can have the downspout company when they're here doing trough. Sure, we'll charge you an extra $150 and you can take them on and off seasonally. Mm-hmm. No one's going to do that.
And then, so, like, I have one more question, and it's just, I do an inspection, right? And then I do find, like, I remember one I showed you, it was like literally a 3/4 inch vertical crack in a brand new home, right, in the foundation. Is it structurally concerning? I think so.
Sure.
I'm not a structural engineer, and I'll never claim to be.
Yeah.
But new home performance guidelines, anything over 1/8 of an inch, that's where they specify.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I go off. But, like, and it's like, you know, you see cracks, but it's like you see 3/4 of an inch in a brand new house, right? Or you do see that eave system that has multiple areas where it's like, you know, that doesn't look right.
Yeah.
How do you approach? Is it just, and you know, you give that to your builder, they say no. Is that just straight lawyer? When you have a contract in place and your builder isn't working with you,
right?
So say you do have a 3/4 inch crack in your foundation, or you do have a major envelope issue that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars down the road. How do you go about that? Well, as a home buyer.
Okay,
right?
So you know what? Let's talk scenario, because scenario speaks words, right? Because every situation is different.
Yeah.
So I got to arbitration. Sorry, last week. Met a couple years ago. Drove way up northern Alberta to go visit them. Yeah. They're like, we have stucco on our house, and there's something wrong with my stucco. I'm sure of it. Mm-hmm. Well, what's wrong with it? We don't know. I'm like, okay, well, what is it you don't know? Yeah. They're like, we just think something's wrong with it. And I'm like, so what do you want? And they're like, we want an independent inspection of our stucco to come tell us if it's good or bad or it has problems. So now listen, now I'm trying to pull information from this couple, and I'm finally getting information. It's got an acrylic stucco system on it with EPS insulation outside of it. It's attempting to be an exterior insulation finish system. It's not. There's a lot of things that are really weird in the photo. So sure enough, I go up to see them.
Yeah. Where did you say this was again?
Northern Alberta.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'm always very diligent whenever I go out to these wall cladding things, and they do have an attempt at EIFs, or they actually have it. I bring this wall section, show people how it's supposed to drain. Like, I've got the full cutaway of all the different layers. So it's a very, very clear picture. And, you know, immediately they're like, well, it wasn't built like that. We know it wasn't built like that. Well, how do you know? Well, we were here every day, right? We live over there and our new house is over here. So, you know, we're here every day checking this out. So the conversation starts. I write a report on this house, and immediately I billed them a couple $1,000s to go up to the house and write this report. And they had legitimate concerns. And they even said to me when we sat down in their garage, like, if you leave here today telling us that you don't have any concerns with this house, we're done with this conversation. Yeah. Like, but we know there's something wrong, and we're just going to sit here on our hands. You go do your thing and let us know what you find. Yeah. So we start going through this house, and there's a lot wrong with this house. Like, this is bad. This is a very nice house they built too. It's like right by a ravine. It's super gorgeous. Yeah. So we're going through this house, and I create a report, and immediately it's rebutted. And the guy that's rebuttaling it partly used to be a close to here municipal inspector. He's gone out into the warranty world, and I think he's completely lost now. Yeah. Like, he's taken all his building code knowledge he had and then now trying to look at it from the warranty side of things, and I don't think they jive for him. Okay. So he like wrote this repair for the home, which was like the most backwards things you've ever seen, improper use of terms. It's like everybody involved in this, the contractor, the builder, the inspectors, the municipal inspectors, like absolutely everybody. Like, I'm like, nobody here knows what they're talking about. Like, this, the verbiage is wrong. The solutions are wrong. Like, this is not going to perform. Didn't matter as far as everybody was concerned. My report was garbage. Yeah. So homeowners now in the spot where they have to decide what are the next steps. So now they decide to hire an engineering company. Yeah. So engineering company goes through my report. They're like, what do you want us to go up for? Like, this report's solid. Like, this has got all the code referencing, all the CCMC evaluations. Like, yeah, this is an envelope failure that's already occurred upon installation. It was a failure upon completion. Yep. What do you want to do? They're like, well, warranty won't hear it. We need you to come up. So now they spend, I think, with that company, and we've talked about his company before. You see lots of stuff on his LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. They go spend with him probably $3,500. Warranty still won't hear it. Warranty goes and spends $5,000 scabbing the house back together. Then they go spend $10,000 hiring an engineer that does forensic work, pipeline work, oil field work to
just
now
trying to get it through
refute.
the 5 years.
Yeah, just trying to let's get those 10 years. If it makes it for the 10 years structural, we're fine, right? And so this company comes in. And we are going through this report. Myself, I'm going through it. People are going through it at a manufacturing level. I'm like, this needs to go to the EVE's technical committee, because I'm like, everyone's going to have a drink one night, and this is going to be like the biggest joke of the world. This Edmonton-based engineering company that they used code references for panelized material that this was. They used code references that it was stuck. Like they contradicted themselves everywhere in the report, and then we all see the bill. This is a $10,000 bill.
Yeah.
So warranty spends all this money fixing the house, $10,000 bill, plus the money the homeowners spent. Like, so there's just money flying everywhere to try to get this claim going. Mm-hmm. So finally the homeowners say, you know what? Nobody wants to help us. The municipality's not stepping in. The inspectors aren't accountable for anything. The builder's not accountable for anything. Home warranty's coming up with the most crazy things you've ever heard, because this guy's a city inspector, or used to be. And it's like, what a freaking joke.
Yeah.
So they said, you know what? We're going to sue you guys. And the builder's like, oh my God, here we go. We're going to get sued. She's like, no, we're suing you, the insurance company.
Yeah.
So who's got the finances to sue an insurance company? Well, they did it. Good for them. They saved their money. And we're like, you know what? We're going to sue you, the insurer, because you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
We've communicated to you from myself, an EVE's council member, technical support behind me, very detailed in what I do in that aspect, another engineering company, and then you hired a forensic engineer from an oil company that dabbles in the forensic side of things for building and restoration to come in here and regurgitate garbage that made no sense.
Yeah.
And they actually, the arbitration was canceled. The warranty company decided to pay them out and fix the house, right? Like days before arbitration.
Nice.
Right? So, I mean, you know, they had to win. But what a frustrating experience for them, months.
And how many
years.
people have the money to insure or sue an insurance company?
That's, insurance law is crazy, absolutely crazy. And
Well, just
it's
like
hard.
lawyer fees for anything
Yeah.
is crazy.
I have another case I'm working on right now where a gentleman walked away from a house that he had a contract to buy. He walked away from it, with what he felt was good reason.
Yeah.
I think he had, some valid reasons behind his rationale. I don't know the whole story. Of course, I'm just a dumb inspector. But at the end of the day, he still hasn't got his deposit back.
And that's
things
basic,
happen.
and that's between him and the builder now.
That's
correct?
between the lawyers now.
Yes, no, for sure, but that'd be between the builder, right? Because he got out of it at that point in time.
And again, it's not my job to understand the contracts. It's only there to support the job at hand.
Yeah.
Maybe his contract was written where if he walked out, he got the money back. Maybe it was written that if he walked out, he didn't get the money back. It depends on the contract used. Building contracts, whether real estate contracts or builder contracts, grossly get misused by people all the time. And unfortunately...
And that's such an important contract.
Such an important contract.
God damn, that's important.
Well, you and I are going through a little bit here right now with a forensic engineering company, right? Largest in the world.
Yeah.
We're going to start working for them.
Yeah.
And I put a stop to the whole project and going to work for them. This has been an ongoing conversation since November. And here I was, and I got their contract or their contractor's agreement. I need to go through it first, of course, before you can sign off on it. Get it off to my partners. They don't really see anything that's going to affect us on our development side. Everybody's happy there. I'm reading it. Things don't look right. Send it off to a really good lawyer that I know that lives very close to me, that I've helped her with some things, so she's helped me with some things. She comes back with 27 items. So I go back with 14 changes.
Yeah.
And they're accepting it. They're like, well, we appreciate your diligence because you're the first contractor in North America that's refuted our document and wants it changed. So we're actually rewriting it entirely for everybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're not going to lose the opportunity to work for them, but we have to really stop, be patient. And unfortunately, there's too much passion involved in home building. Too much passion involved. It's too personal for everybody.
Yeah.
And people make decisions based on feelings a lot of times, and it's not based on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Not a new home, but you recently inspected a home for my friend.
Yeah.
I came to that inspection with my son so he could come hang out with us on the weekend and pretend to be an inspector.
Yep.
You know damn well what was in that house.
Yep.
The only thing we focused on in this house, a nicer home, what was it, 3,000 square feet?
Yeah, around
Ish.
there.
Maybe probably 4-ish with the finished basement, big house.
Yep.
But needed all new windows. This is a home that was, that home was what, 13 years old? Yeah, 13 years old.
If that.
No,
Yeah.
06. So it was a
06?
little bit older. But it needed all new windows.
Yep.
Right? We found major stucco issues.
Yep.
And this is real stucco.
Yeah.
Then when you found the garage wall soaked that we were talking about when I got there.
Yep.
So you've got all these issues. Chimney, $100,000 repair for me and you. He got contractors to come out and quote. So, I mean, of course, everyone wants to win a bid. So he got quotes for $65,000, $70,000. I'd need $100,000.
Yeah.
And in the end of it, he bought a house when he only got $5,000 off of it. Right? So he's got, in my opinion, $100,000 to spend. He'll get it done for much less because he'll do what he has to do. He won't do all the extras that I would do along the way.
Yeah.
but he's got $5,000 off a house that needs $100,000 worth of work, plus the renovations they'll probably end up doing in it, because they're so personally, passionately involved in the purchase.
50,000 plus renos too.
So it's hard, and that comes with new homes as well. My home's 10 years old. We just finished doing all the flooring, painting, and electrical.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We did the deck the year before, right? Composite decks. I mean, things add up. Even your new home will wear and tear.
And they add up a lot faster than they used to. Like way faster.
I need a new toilet.
Yeah.
New toilet for my son's bathroom. It's like $700 for a good toilet.
That's a nice toilet.
That's it really.
You can
No, I don't want the $150 economy toilet in my house. But well, maybe I do because I'm cheap at times. But no, it is just how it is.
No, for sure.
But no, and you're seeing it too, and you're seeing the fallout, and that recent one that I shared a lot of the photos and the attic stuff with you. I mean,
yeah, that was so the truss was literally snapped.
You know what? For my video I didn't have my boots up in the house, and I didn't honestly want to go get them because it was so close to the hatch. I knew where the problem was, and you saw the unsupported rafters and everything too, which is just crazy. Yeah, but.
Was it snapped though, the truss?
No. So what it actually was, once I got home, blew it up on the big screen, then zoomed in on it. Yeah. Somebody cut it.
Okay.
So somebody physically took. So that was a horizontal, basically a truss joist. Yeah. Right. To pick up the rafter load.
Wow.
And there was an offset somewhere because of the vaulted ceiling in the bonus room beside the hallway that somebody literally cut it. Yeah. And then when they cut it, you can just tell they smashed on it until it just all fingered and broke. Yeah. So now you have a fully compromised truss that's doing this. The rafters loading on it. Well, no wonder the ceiling and everything's busted.
And
below.
you'd be surprised how many damaged trusses are installed. Oh, yeah. Like when you're handling wood with a zoom boom and you're banging around, running it over, whatever. Just
fix it.
And that's like one thing that I'd really, and like when I'm walking through an attic, right, and especially if you're in like tall ceilings and you got 20 feet below you, just be damn sure you're holding on to something. Yeah. Right? Because it is a long way down, and I have seen multiple trusses installed, snapped.
So you've been to my friend's home on the drive with the big crazy staircase upstairs and the 9-car garage. Yeah. His attic. So before that home got insulated, we had 3 leaks.
I couldn't imagine trying to get those trusses up there.
No, but think about this here. Think about Steve with only poly below me and no gypsum yet. Yeah. Walking through above the living room. So, of course, you got this fluted staircase. You got 30-foot tall ceilings inside. You're looking down into the basement because the staircase isn't in yet. Yeah. And, that's a solid 36-foot fall if something goes wrong, for sure. Yeah. And you're going to cross these truss cords. What are you going to tie off to? Are you going to choke a rope around? No. I crawled across that entire piece to look at trusses the one day because there was issues in the roof. And, it's not cool.
No,
it's not cool.
Back in my framing days, I actually fell through a roof.
Did you really?
Yeah, like just right through the trusses. Luckily, I was on the second floor, but it was probably a good 13 feet just because it was a 2-foot section of ply. Yeah. And obviously, you want your 3/4 inch bearing on each side, right? Perfect world, but this was more like 1/4 inch, and I had to go grab something. Walking back, stepped, and right through.
Yeah, no, I
definitely want to be
put
careful.
My butt through a ceiling once.
Yeah. I can see that.
Low slope, and I was trying to scoot. For some reason, I was scooching across.
You're a big guy. I've seen you get through some small spaces.
And I'm like, oh man, that didn't go good. And
that good blower door test, remember that one?
Which
I did
one?
with you, St. Albert area. I think it was St. Albert. Bigger house.
Oh,
this was probably a year ago.
On those show homes.
Yeah. I just remember you trying to get through there. I was pretty impressed.
I got through.
Yeah, no, you did. Like it was small.
That's why when the guys tell me I can't lean enough on the motorcycle,
I
might be tall, but I can move around.
You're doing some nice moves there.
No, and you know what though? That's just the reality. If you're not going to crawl through it, you're not going to learn.
Yeah, I think we're getting up on time here. But
we are up there on time. So
it was a good, good chat. I think. Well, I guess we'll have to listen back and see how we did. But
we've got some awesome guys sitting here in the background, tiptoeing around and doing their thing.
Yeah, no, Media.1. Shout out to them for sure for having us here and helping us out for our first podcast. Okay, guys, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for tuning in. If you agree or disagree with anything we said, leave a comment. And hit the like and subscribe button, and we will see you next time.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to try to get out and do this about once a month, and reasonably every 30 days you should see a new one. If you guys do want to hear about a specific topic, please let us know. Maybe in a couple months' time we'll circle back, do some questions on some of our old podcasts as well.
Yeah, anytime.
So, don't be afraid to hit us with some questions. Thank you very much, everybody.
Have a good day.